I recently found out that I have BPD, which stands for borderline personality disorder. And it's something that I've struggled with for as long as I can remember, and it's affected my life for as long as I can remember, but I just had no idea that there was a name for it. I didn't know it was a disorder. I just thought that I was a little more passionate or intense than most people. So I thought that a lot of people probably were the same as me, but just were better at hiding it. Um, or I thought that it was just that I was more passionate than most other people about things. But I found out that I have this disorder, and finding out about it kind of gave me hope. It was really a tough thing to find out about, but in the same sense, it also gave me a little hope because it helped me realize that there's actually a name for it, and that there are other people like me out there. And so I wanted to share my journey in case it could help someone else that struggles with the same things that I've always struggled with. So I just want to, in this video, I want to talk about um, borderline personality disorder and what it has looked like in my life. And I'm just going to talk about the symptoms um, of borderline and how those have manifested in my life. And I'm going to make future videos about this and talk about different topics with BPD. And I hope that it helps someone else out there. And I just wanted to share my journey. So I appreciate you guys listening to my video and listening to my story. And so, first, I want to just say a little bit about BPD, a little bit about borderline personality disorder. The main feature of borderline personality disorder is a prevalent pattern of instability in interpersonal relationships, self image, and emotions, which I've seen all of those in my life for as long as I can remember. I've had unstable relationships, unstable self image, and unstable emotions. People with borderline personality disorder are usually very impulsive, check. Oftentimes demonstrating self injurious behaviors, risky behaviors, cutting, suicide attempts, that kind of thing. Um, so when I was in college, I read about borderline personality disorder because I majored in psychology. So in my abnormal psychology class, I remember learning about borderline, but at the time, I didn't think that I had it because it said cutting was a part of it, and I've never struggled with cutting myself, although I have struggled with suicide thoughts and just wanting to hurt myself, but not ever actually doing it. So, um, borderline personality occurs in most people by early adulthood. The unstable pattern is persistent for years, and people with BPD are usually a lot more sensitive than most people to environment and things that are going on around them. So that for me has been exhibited with like just different things can really affect my mood, whoever's around me, other people's moods around me, what's going on, what happens. You know, if one little thing goes wrong in my day, it can really just set me on a bad path for the rest of the day, unless I really, really try hard not to let it. But even then, it's pretty useless for me to try not to let it affect me or put me in a bad mood. It's like almost impossible. If someone like says something bad about me or to me, or someone looks at me wrong, I can sit there and analyze it, and just I feel really stressed out inside and a lot of anxiety, and just I can get really really emotional, and my emotions are all over the place. And one of the things that causes BPD is being invalidated, having your emotions invalidated. It's also called emotion dysregulation disorder, is another kind of non-official name for it. It's basically a person hasn't been taught how to regulate their emotions, or they've been invalidated, or both. I guess usually it would be both. And so when those emotions come, it's like really, really intense emotion, a lot more intense than other people. And it's really hard to control it. You know, like I can get really, really upset over something really quickly. And it's like I'm overwhelmed with that emotion, and I can't just, I can't just talk myself down from it or whatever, like most people. I guess that's what therapy is going to teach me how to do. Um, I've just started therapy. I've only been to like one session and one group session, um, and so I'm going to be learning through my therapy how to deal with these things and coping mechanisms. Basically, how to regulate my emotions that other people things that other people already do automatically, I guess. Um, so anyway, I want to talk about the symptoms of BPD and what it's looked like in my life. So the first one, frantic efforts to avoid abandonment, whether the abandonment is real or imagined. And so with me, it's been like the BPD causes me to like not be able to control myself, and I have a lot of anger. It's not that I can't control myself. Like I'm actually pretty good a lot of the time at controlling my actions. Not always, but sometimes I am. If it's certain circumstances, I guess I'm probably one of the more high functioning, I guess they would call it. Um, but it has caused me problems in my workplace, times when I wasn't able to control myself. And it's caused me a lot of problems in my relationships. So it's basically like when something upsets me, I'll get really upset and I'll lash out. You know, I'll have anger a lot, and um, I'll lash out, and so then it's like you feel like because you're this way, or just in general, you feel like people are not going to stick around, and you feel like since they're not going to stick around, you might as well just push them away while you can, so that you don't have to wait around for them to break your heart and push you away and be done with you, you know? So it's like you end up pushing them away and basically creating a self fulfilling prophecy, which has resulted in the end of some very important relationships in my life. Um, Basically, I was so afraid that those people would leave me that I tried to leave them before they could leave me, and then it eventually ended up causing them to to leave me. And you know, I have the same problems now still. Um, you know, I have a lot of anger and a lot of struggles with my emotions, and just getting really emotional really quickly over things, and then that causes fights, and then I feel like, you know, my husband's probably going to leave me, so I will like basically threaten to leave first, or um, you know, say things I shouldn't say, and stuff like that. And that's a pattern that's been going on in my life for as long as I can remember. Um, so efforts to avoid abandonment. Some people get super duper clingy to avoid the abandonment, and then other people like me will push the person away and try to walk away before the other person can abandon me. So it's not that so I'm not one of the super clingy types that's like, you know, just constantly being really clingy in order to get them, like, because I'm afraid they're going to leave. For me, it's more like, well, I'm afraid they're going to leave, so I'm just going to leave or say I'm going to leave. um, and it's basically like you are pushing the person uh, away to kind of test them and see if they will stay, or if they'll fight for you, or if they really will just leave, you know. So it's like you're kind of testing them to see if they want to leave or not, and you're giving them that opportunity to leave in case they are really wanting to leave. Then they'll just leave and you'll know you were right. But if they keep trying to pursue you, then it shows they really care about you. So one of my exes in the past, I broke up with him literally every day for almost the whole time we were together. I broke up with him constantly, and it was because I felt like he was going to leave me anyway. I felt like he didn't really love me, so I felt like I was just going to push him away to see if he did really love me. If he fought for me, then that showed that he loved me. Um, and if not, then I would know that I was right all along and he really didn't love me. So I think a part of that, the root of that, is a low self, like, it's the unstable self image. I don't feel like I have low self esteem. I don't feel like I'm, just like someone who hates myself or anything like that. I'm not like that. It's just that my self image and my self image is really unstable. It's all over the place. So, like, things that people do or say to me can affect my self image. Some days I feel really good about myself. I feel fine. I don't feel like a bad person, or I don't feel ugly or whatever. And then other days I just feel like I just want to crawl in a hole and die. And I just feel like everybody hates me and people are talking about me, or people think I'm this or that. People think I'm crazy or weird or something bad. So I just feel like my self image is really in the toilet. And so I think that's kind of the root of the whole feeling like the person doesn't really love me. So I feel like I need to push them and test them in order to see if they do really love me or not. So then the next one is a pattern of unstable and intense interpersonal relationships characterized by alternating between extremes of idealization and devaluation. And that goes along with what I was just talking about. A lot of these symptoms go hand in hand and kind of all piggyback off each other or seem to cause the other ones. So the fears of abandonment and the changing self image causes the unstable and intense relationships. And a part of that is you go between having this person up on a pedestal thinking they're the best thing ever, and being down here thinking that they are awful and you can't stand them and you wish you had never met them before. And it's called idealization and devaluation. So you go between these extremes. And another part of BPD is called black and white thinking or splitting. And I believe that's where the idealization and devaluation comes in. That's a part of that. And I do it to other people, but also even to myself, and that is where the unstable self image again comes in. You idealize yourself sometimes, some days, and then other times, other days, other minutes, other hours, you will devalue yourself and feel horrible about yourself and feel like you're the worst person ever, or you're just awful and you don't like yourself. So you will split between those two, and it's black and white. You're either the best thing ever or you're the worst thing ever. The person you're with is either the best thing ever or the worst thing ever. So it's really intense, and it causes a lot of problems in your relationship, to say the least. Identity disturbance, such as a significant and persistent unstable self-image or sense of self. I've pretty much already covered that. Impulsivity in at least two areas that are potentially self-damaging: spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, binge eating. Impulsivity, I would definitely characterize myself as an impulsive person. Like I said, I think I'm a little bit more high functioning than, I'm like, some people are a little more high functioning, some people are a little more low functioning, and these things affect them like way worse in every area of their life. And those would be people that end up, being hospitalized, or just, are constantly in violence, with other people. They have violence in their relationships, or they cut themselves, or stuff like that. So there's lower functioning and then there's higher functioning. And even if you are high functioning, you still are going to have a lot of struggles, and it's still very, very hard, very, very painful. But what makes you more high functioning is if you are a little bit better at controlling yourself, out in the world. So like in your job or just around everyday people. So someone like me, it takes a little bit more than it would for a low functioning person for me to go off, in front of people, or to show myself like in that way. Even if I'm feeling it inside, I'm a little bit more able to keep from showing it to other people as much when I'm around people that I don't know, or out in public or at work, or that kind of thing. But I'm not saying that I won't show it ever, or that I'm able to hide it or withhold it. all the time because I'm not. So it's just that I may have a little bit higher of a threshold before I act out, and show that side of me that I'm not proud of, by the way. Um, there comes a lot of shame and guilt with this disorder, and that's another part that affects your self image and causes you to feel really crappy about yourself. When you do act out those emotions that you're feeling and act on those emotions, you feel a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, and you just hate yourself. You really hate yourself because you wish so badly that you didn't feel that anger, and you wish so badly that you didn't feel all that emotion, or that you were able to control it like other people. Um, so, impulsivity. Okay, back to that. um, the reason I was talking about being more high functioning or lower functioning is I'm not trying to say that I am better than other people who have it or anything like that, or I'm not saying that at all. Just want to clear that up. It's affected me a lot in my life, and these symptoms are real, and they are painful, and they cause a lot of problems. It's just that some people it causes even more problems for, and those would be what they would consider lower functioning, when it affects them worse or in more areas or in more ways or more often in their life. So, and what I said about cutting, I want to go back to that for a second and say that it's not. Someone can be higher functioning and still do the cutting. I shouldn't have put that in there in that category. That's not what makes someone higher or lower functioning, I don't think. I could be wrong about that, but I think that someone could probably still be more higher functioning and still do that, and you just might not know. But I'm not sure. I don't know a lot about the cutting because, like I said, it's not something that I struggle with, although I do know people who do struggle with it. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know a whole ton about that, but I do know that there are two different types of borderline, which would be quiet borderline and then just regular borderline, I guess. But the quiet borderline, those are the ones who tend to take their anger out on themselves, and that's what causes the cutting. That's why they cut. They take all their anger out on themselves, and then other people like me who don't struggle with the cutting, they extrovert that, or act it out so their anger comes out. They don't act it out on themselves. It comes out on whoever is around them. So the people that are closest to them are the ones who get their wrath rather than themselves, which sucks, I know. Okay, so impulsivity, let me get back to that. Spending, sex, substance abuse, reckless driving, binge eating. For me, reckless driving has been one. I actually got a DUI one time, and it was reduced down to a reckless driving. But I've definitely done a lot of reckless driving for sure. And in the worst times of my life, when this was affecting me the most, that was when I did get a little more promiscuous than I normally would, and more than I would care to admit. I wasn't anyone who would just sleep around with just anybody or anything like that, but I was always a good girl, and I was raised in church, and I was raised to believe that you're supposed to wait until marriage to do that. But in the worst times of my life, when I was just in the bottom pits of despair, I did do that with people that, I shouldn't have, because I wanted to feel loved, and I didn't feel loved, so it causes you to do things like that. Substance abuse has been something that I've struggled with also. And I believe the reason for that is it comes down to anxiety and all the emotions that you're feeling. It just builds up, and you just feel so intense and so strongly, just turmoil inside that you look for something to help ease the pain mentally. It's like BPD has been compared to someone with third-degree burns all over their body, only it's mental. So, you know, I go through periods where I just feel just so much just mental anguish and anxiety inside and just pain inside. Just like sometimes I can't even explain to you why. I couldn't even tell you why, but it'll be like I fluctuate all the time with my mental state, with my emotions. I'll be really, really super depressed or just really, really anxious or just feel just inside. And I can't even explain it, but I just feel anguish, just turmoil, just discontent, you know. So that's what I've struggled with the impulsivity and shopping too. Shopping therapy has always been something that has made me feel better. If I'm feeling that way, I have been known to spend a few $100 shopping, and I feel better temporarily. But it's impulsivity. Like I'm really impulsive with that kind of thing. Even if I don't have the money, sometimes I will do it. But another reason why I would be considered a little more high functioning than the lowest of the group is because I won't go spend my rent. Some people with BPD will go spend their rent or their car payment or money that they absolutely should not spend because it's going to affect their life. If they do, they will spend that money. So I'm the kind that if I will still pay my bills. You know what I mean? So I don't go spend my bill money, but I spend money that I shouldn't spend. Recurrent suicidal behavior, gestures, or threats, or self-mutilating behavior. So for me, the first time I remember feeling suicidal was when I was 15. My ex-boyfriend had died in a car accident, and I remember sitting outside my house and just looking down at the street. I was in ridiculous pain, mentally and emotionally. And I remember seeing these semi trucks driving by my house, and I just remember thinking how easy it would be for me to just walk out in front of one while they were driving by, and then they wouldn't have time to stop, and then I would just be gone. It'd be over. But for me, it's never been about me wanting to kill myself. I don't want to kill myself. I don't want to go through the pain of actually killing myself, and I don't want to actually do that. And I don't believe in doing that, and I'm not going to do that. But for me, it's always been more of just wanting to stop existing, because existing is so painful mentally and emotionally for me that there are times when I just wish that I didn't exist anymore. And I remember times when I would just be laying on my floor and just asking God, just crying and begging God to just take me home and just let me just go, like I don't want to go through any pain of dying, but I just want to just stop existing and just, and I have this common image that I go to in my head where I'm just like out in oblivion. I'm like in outer space where I'm just floating and I don't exist, and there's no pain and there's nothing to think about or worry about, and I'm just at peace and away from the world and away from everything, all the pain of the world. So for me, it's just been more about wishing that I could just stop existing so that I wouldn't have any pain anymore. So that's where the suicidal thoughts come in for me. And that happens, it happens fairly often. It's happened fairly often throughout my life since I was 15. It's not all the time, it's not every day. One of the things about the BPD is you go through periods where you're not struggling as much, and then you'll go through really bad periods, and they last for different amounts of time. It's not ever like, oh, it lasts for a day and it's gone for a week. It's not like that. It's like just you can't predict it. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no pattern. And it can last for a long time or it can last for a short time. Your good days can last for a while, for a week or something, or your good days can be very, very few and far between. It just really varies. And then, let's see, emotional instability due to significant reactivity of mood, intense episodic dysphoria, irritability or anxiety, usually lasting a few hours and only rarely more than a few days. So a lot of people get BPD confused with with bipolar disorder. And a lot of people are misdiagnosed as bipolar who are actually BPD. One of the main differences between the two is that with bipolar, your moods, you go through either manic or depressive states, and they can last for weeks, months, years. BPD, you go through all of the emotions in one day, and your moods change just on the drop of a hat, all within a day. You can go through, in one day, I can be super happy, ecstatic, I can be super sad, I can be super depressed, have a ton of anxiety, all of these in one day. So, and then back to super happy again. It's like there's no there's no rhyme or reason or predictability to it. My moods change very much, and so people like me are known as being moody for that reason. Chronic feelings of emptiness is another thing, and that's one thing that causes a lot of the depression. I feel like it's like you kind of feel numb. It's like you kind of fluctuate between feeling everything, and that's when you're feeling like that turmoil and that anxiety that I was talking about. You fluctuate between that and feeling nothing. So like sometimes I'll go through times where I feel nothing, um, and I just feel emotionally numb and empty inside, and that's what causes me to feel depressed. I think when I feel like that, I feel depressed for no apparent reason. Like everything in my life will be perfectly fine, but I just feel super depressed and can't really explain why. Inappropriate, intense anger or difficulty controlling anger. For example, frequent displays of temper, constant anger, recurrent physical fights. So the physical fights, those would be people on the more low functioning side that they're considered low functioning. Um, I since I don't really have that issue with struggling with fighting with people physically, that would make me be considered a little more on the high functioning side, which once again, like I said, either way, whether you're low functioning or high functioning, it's still extremely painful, and it's still a very hard struggle to go through, and it's a hard mental issue to deal with. And like I was saying, my anger, that's one of the things that causes me the most shame in my life is feeling anger over things that like sometimes I don't know if it's me. Like since I found out I have BPD, I struggle a lot because I'm like, is this something I should really be mad about, or am I justified in this? And that's something I've actually struggled with even before I knew I had BPD. Like when I would get in a fight with my boyfriend at the time, I would be really confused as to whether I had a right to be mad or if it was just me with my anger issue. um, or if I just, if I just had an issue, or if it was actually I should be mad. Transient stress-related paranoid thoughts or severe dissociative symptoms is another one, and I would say that this has affected me as well. But I think when you're in those times, you have no idea that you are experiencing paranoid thoughts. You are paranoid, about the person leaving you, or people thinking bad about you, or people hating you, or people talking bad about you behind your back. You are paranoid about those things, but you don't realize you're being paranoid. You don't realize it's a symptom of the BPD when you're going through that. So when you go through treatment, I've read that the main part of treatment, the treatment is DBT, and people can recover. There is hope. People that go through DBT, 90% of people recover. So part of the treatment, it's called DBT, which stands for dialectical behavior therapy. And part of that is mindfulness training, which basically trains you to be mindful of those emotions. And when you're mindful of those emotions, you are able to deal with them and process them and cope with them the way a person who doesn't have BPD does. But it still takes a lot of work. There's always going to be a lot of work involved in this because it doesn't come naturally to us to process those emotions in a healthy way. So the work comes in where we're having to actually mentally think about these things and process them. Whereas for a person without BPD, they would probably do that just automatically. So one of the things about BPD also that I forgot to mention with the suicide, people with BPD have the highest rate of suicide. It's 1 in 10 that actually go through with it and are successful with committing suicide. And the rate is, I think, I don't forget what the rate is for people that attempt it. It's a lot higher than that. I think it may be 4 out of 10, but I could be wrong on that. But there's a high risk of suicide with BPD. But for anyone out there who does have BPD, just know that there is hope. There is hope for full recovery. It takes some work. It takes getting into therapy, and it's something that we can recover from. So that's great. It's there's no like medication that cures it or anything like that. It just takes learning those coping mechanisms and being able to be mindful of your emotions and processing those and stuff. So there is hope. And for me, I really want to get into therapy so that I don't destroy my relationship with my husband the way I destroyed my past relationships. And it's caused me problems in my friendships too. I just didn't realize it. And there's been a lot of things I've blocked out of my mind because I didn't want to think about it. Times that I've acted on my anger to my friends, and just kind of let the rage come out, I guess. So I really want to learn to process these emotions effectively and not let it influence me and not let it destroy my relationships anymore. So I'm going to continue to share my journey in therapy and share the things that I'm learning about BPD and how things are affecting me, and hopefully find some support amongst others out there who also struggle with the things that I struggle with. And people with BPD a lot of times get a really bad rap because of the people that are on the more low functioning end, who have done like ridiculously violent things, like slash your tires or set your house on fire, something like that. And a lot of therapists will refuse to treat people that have BPD because of the bad rap that we have. But we're not all like that. We don't all do those things. And the people that do those things, just remember that we are all basically experiencing extreme turmoil inside, and that we need your compassion. And we need to know that you love us no matter what. We need to know that you unconditionally care about us. And if you are with someone who struggles with that, you should set boundaries, and you should not let them destroy you as a person. But you should just know that it's basically a cry for help on our part, and that we do need help, and we do need your love, and we do need your patience. And that's basically all. Don't give up on us. Even though we have these struggles, we really love you. That's one of the things about BPD. My husband always says it's a blessing and a curse. It's a curse because of all the pain that we have to go through with it, but it's a blessing because when we love someone, we love you with our entire whole being, everything we are. It's extreme, intense love. We really, we feel emotions stronger, good and bad and good. So it's not all bad. There are good things that come out of it. We are extremely passionate people. And a lot of times we're really creative people also. A lot of people that are successful or creative types have BPD, and that's one thing that drives people to do the art that they do is and bring out that creative energy, transfer it into creative energy, is all the things we feel inside. Like I'm a musician, I'm a singer songwriter. I'm also an artist. I paint, and I do creative things a lot, and it's because it's like a therapy for me. Music and writing songs is my therapy. It's how I soothe my mind. Just it's like cathartic, getting those emotions out on paper kind of helps me process them. So that's one reason why there are so many musicians and artists in general who have BPD. That's why it's such a common thing, because people that have BPD a lot of times will find therapy, a sense of therapy in the arts. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say for today, but thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being supportive, and please don't put any nasty comments on my page if you are someone who hates people that have borderline, because there are people like that out there who have been really burned by people with BPD. So I would say for any of you that feel that way, you should seek to forgive and don't let that bitterness eat you up inside. So that's all I'm going to say, and God bless you guys. Have a great day.